We're on number 6 now. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. So this movie I have sort of complicated opinion on. I give it, in my rating, I think it should be at number 4 because it's a 9 out of 10. And essentially my opinion of this movie is the last 45 minutes is a 9.7 out of 10, giving you the clue that the rest of the movie, the beginning, is not nearly as good as the end, and also tells you my opinion of the ending is very, very, very good. Like, I really love the ending of this film. I think it's perfect. Everything from music to direction to character building to like the emotional payoffs to the anxiety, the suspense. And I'll get into that. But the film basically takes place right after the events of number 5, where Sirius Black has been murdered. And basically the whole world acknowledges Voldemort has returned and the war has begun. And basically it cuts after that to a scene that's sort of unusual. It's in Snape's neighborhood. We never see anything from his point of view up until this point of the series. And something very strange is happening. Draco has been given a mission. Draco Malfoy and his mother and her cousin Bellatrix Lestrange are pleading with Snape to protect her son. And, Bellatrix says, make him swear on it. Make him take the unbreakable vow. She doesn't trust him. But he surprises her and says, yes, I will take the vow. And essentially an unbreakable vow is if you do not complete it, what you say you're going to do, you die. So that starts it. And this creates a whole cloud of anxiety over the whole movie. Because up until this point, we're to believe that Snape is trusted by Dumbledore and he's been protecting Harry this whole time, but he's making moves that would appear to be very hostile to Dumbledore, and we just have to see what those are. So, Harry's on break, and Dumbledore apparates to meet him and surprises him and takes him to a little village where they contact Horace Slughorn, which is a former professor at Hogwarts, and despite trying to recruit him for a year, Horace has not accepted Dumbledore's offer to come teach potions. But due to the presence of Harry Potter and his fame and all that, Horace agrees to come back, essentially. And some background on Horace Slughorn, who I actually really like as a side character. I think he's kind of interesting. He's basically a Slytherin, but he's not like a bad person. So if you don't know, Slytherins are very ambitious and driven. And basically his thing is he's obsessed with basically collecting great students, and he's very proud of them. And he shows Harry Potter a picture of his mother, who was one of his most prized students. So this is part of the reason he decides to come back, and it's unclear at this point why Dumbledore is doing this and what his endgame is. So Dumbledore takes Harry to the Burrow, which is Ron's house, and he reunites with his friends, Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger. And at this point, they go to Diagon Alley, where Ron, Hermione, and Harry they see Draco and Narcissa Malfoy go into Knockturn Alley, where they meet with Death Eaters. And they don't know what happens in this meeting, but Harry believes that Voldemort has made Draco a Death Eater, but Ron and Hermione are skeptical, because it's kind of like The Boy Who Cried Wolf, because they've believed that Draco was this terrible person before, like in the Chamber of Secrets. They thought he opened it, but, Harry has definitely a bias against him. And so at the Hogwarts Express, Harry sneaks off to use his invisibility cloak to eavesdrop on Draco. And basically Draco is very withdrawn, and he's basically saying he's probably not going to be there next year at school and how terrible the school is and all this stuff. But Harry notices Harry and petrifies him with a spell, but he's saved by Luna. Luna Lovegood. And at this point, we're in school life at Hogwarts. Harry and Ron are forced to borrow textbooks from Slughorn's potion class, and Harry is stuck with a old copy. And basically, a scene ensues where Harry is using this book to make a potion that everyone else is struggling with, but he's using annotations from someone named the Half-Blood Prince who used to own the book. And he basically brews a perfect potion, and he is rewarded with a liquid luck potion that gives you basically a bunch of confidence and helps you succeed with your goals. And Hermione tries to find out who the Half-Blood Prince is, but can find no reference to him in the school library. Ron becomes the keeper of the Gryffindor Quidditch team, and basically Hermione kind of cheats to help him get there by jinxing his rival's broom. So it's clear Hermione is kind of in love with Ron more clearly in this one, but Ron forms a romantic relationship with Lavender Brown, upsetting Hermione. And Harry is consoled by Hermione, and I like this scene a lot. I've always loved this scene. It's sort of this sweet scene where Harry and Hermione are together, and Harry's comforting her over Ron, and this is really nice music, and I like it a lot. It's very sweet. And Harry consoles Hermione, revealing that he has feelings for Ron's younger sister, Ginny. And for Ron's first Quidditch match, Harry pretends to put liquid luck in his drink to basically give him confidence, but he doesn't actually use it, but it does help him, and he turns into a hero. At this point, we see some of the protections Hogwarts has to keep out the Death Eaters, like protective spells and Aurors from the Ministry of Magic patrolling the halls and all this stuff. So it's been militarized by the government, essentially, and Dumbledore. And at this point, Harry tails Snape and Draco, and he overhears a conversation where Draco says to Snape that he's been chosen and that he's not afraid, and Snape tells him that he's like protecting him. And at this point, Harry rats on Snape to Remus Lupin, saying that like Snape is a traitor, but Lupin assures Harry that Dumbledore trusts Snape, and thus he and the rest of the Order must trust Snape as well. A necklace is discovered in the tavern outside of the castle grounds, and a girl seems to have been cursed and possessed to bringing it to Dumbledore. She never does, because she's basically, her body goes into a fit when she touches it. And Harry, Ron, and Hermione bring this to Snape and Professor McGonagall, where Harry outright accuses Draco of poisoning the girl. When he does this, Snape basically says, like, what's your proof? And Harry has none, and basically Snape is fulfilling the unbreakable vow to protect Draco. Harry spends Christmas with the Weasleys, and his suspicions about Draco are dismissed by the Order, but Arthur Weasley reveals that the Malfoys may be interested in a vanishing cabinet at Borgin and Burke's. On Christmas Eve, Bellatrix Lestrange and Fenrir Greyback set fire to the burrow, which is the Weasley's house, which is another good scene, very good action scene, and sad. At this point, Harry begins his sort of journey of discovery with Dumbledore in the Pensieve, which is the way you relive your memories. And Dumbledore shows Harry memories of a young Tom Riddle, so a young Voldemort, who Dumbledore met at an insane asylum, where Tom reveals to Dumbledore he can speak to snakes and make animals obey his commands. He was so different. He was different, and all the other boys and girls shunned him, and he had no friends. Dumbledore reveals that Slughorn retains a memory critical to Voldemort's defeat. So that's why Dumbledore has brought this old Professor Slughorn, back. Basically, Slughorn gave Dumbledore a memory, but it's been tampered with, and it's not honest, and he's refusing to give the real thing to Dumbledore. So Dumbledore believes that Harry can get this out of him. After cursing Ron, after curing, there's a scene where Ron accidentally eats a love potion intended for Harry. Harry takes him to Slughorn for a cure, and after curing Ron, Slughorn offers the boys some mead he had intended as a gift for Dumbledore, which poisons Ron, and Harry has quick thinking that saves his friend. So another assassination attempt on Dumbledore. First the necklace, then the bottle of mead. And basically Ron's in the hospital, and he murmurs Hermione's name in front of his girlfriend, and that causes their relationship to end, thank God. Hermione's much better. Harry confronts Draco and severely injures him with a Sectum Sempra curse taken from the textbook of the Half-Blood Prince, and Snape enters to quickly heal Draco's wound, once again fulfilling his unbreakable vow to his mother. Fearing the book may be filled with more dark magic, Ginny and Harry hide it in the Room of Requirement and share their first kiss. Harry eventually succeeds in retrieving the memory. Basically, he takes the liquid luck potion and he talks to Slughorn, and I really do enjoy this scene. Like, this film has really, really good scenes. It's just part of it I feel is too slow at the very beginning, but at this point it's really starting to pick up. There's a really beautiful scene, beautifully written, where basically Aragog, the spider from the Chamber of Secrets, dies, and Slughorn is saying, he's relating to Hagrid in his moment of grief, saying, yeah, he once had a fish, and all of a sudden, he just died, and like the fish just disappeared. And at this point, Hagrid, who's drunk, falls asleep, and Slughorn finishes the story to Harry and says it was a gift from a student, his mother, and the fish disappeared when his mother was murdered. And Harry basically explains to him that his mother sacrificed her life to save him, and he needs this memory from him to make sure that his mother's death wasn't in vain. So, reluctantly and with shame, Slughorn gives the true memory to Harry, and Harry takes it to Dumbledore, and they look at the memory, and basically it reveals that Slughorn, basically Tom Riddle / Voldemort as a child, asked Slughorn about Horcruxes, and basically Slughorn was the one that explained to him. So now it's revealed how Voldemort survived his death at the hands of Harry Potter. It's a Horcrux is basically you split your soul into like a few pieces and you hide them in objects. That way, so if your body is ever destroyed, you can still continue living. And basically, now we understand why Dumbledore is dying, sort of. Like, at the beginning of the film, it says, or it shows that his hand is turning black. And basically, he tried to destroy a Horcrux that was a ring, and it cursed him. And also the diary from the Chamber of Secrets was a Horcrux. But now it's basically been confirmed what they are. Dumbledore didn't really know what they were, for sure, but now they understand, and they need to destroy all 7, or else they will not be able to kill Voldemort permanently. And basically Dumbledore reveals, and this is like the last 45 minutes, this is basically one of my favorite parts, maybe my favorite part of any Harry Potter. That's why I really do enjoy this movie, and I do give it a great rating, because I would say the last 45 minutes are like perfect. 9.7 out of 10, I would say. So Harry and Dumbledore have their last moments together before they go to the cave where Dumbledore believes he has located a Horcrux. And they go through these trials that are very good, and a very brilliant scene where Dumbledore has to drink poisoned water to reveal the Horcrux. Very powerful. And basically, Harry's dragged to the bottom of this lake by these things called Inferi, I think they're called. Inferi. And at this moment, you see Dumbledore's true power, where he conjures like a firestorm, and they escape. And I kind of like the imagery. It's like the bearded man who kind of like almost parts the sea, but with fire. It kind of reminded me of like Moses-like imagery in a way. And because J.K. Rowling is like, there's a lot of like Christian / this is technically Jewish, but for her, since she's a Christian, we could call it Christian imagery. It's mostly with Harry and like the sacrifice and characters sacrificing themselves for the sins of others, stuff like that. But yeah, so they apparate back to Hogwarts with the Horcrux, and at this point, Dumbledore instructs Harry to hide as Draco arrives and reveals that he has been chosen by Voldemort to kill Dumbledore, and he's unable to do it. At this point, Snape starts walking up the stairs. Him and Harry make eye contact. Snape puts a finger over his mouth and says, like, don't make any noise. And in this moment, Harry trusts Snape because he trusts Dumbledore. Snape goes up, and maybe my favorite scene, I would say, the death of Dumbledore. Snape kills Dumbledore, and before then, of course, Dumbledore says, "Severus, please." And he says, "Avada Kedavra." And Dumbledore is thrown from the tower, killed, and the Death Eaters basically loot Hogwarts. Harry, in a rage, chases after Snape, and Snape doesn't fight back, insisting that Voldemort must be the one to kill Harry and no one can harm him, revealing that he is the Half-Blood Prince, and it was his textbook he'd been reading the whole time. Harry returns in a beautiful scene to see the school mourning Dumbledore, and the film ends with the revelation that the locket is a fake, and inside is a little piece of paper that contains a message from R.A.B. stating that the real Horcrux is stolen with the intent of destroying it. And basically, Ron, Hermione, and Harry vow to not go back to Hogwarts and to seek the destruction of all the Horcruxes, and that is, of course, the Deathly Hallows. So yeah, that's the Half-Blood Prince. Like I said, the only thing I really... And you know what? I'm going to watch this movie again, and maybe it's not as slow as I think, but just the beginning of the movie, I would say the first hour and a half is a little too slow, and part of the problem with this is inexplicably they took out multiple things from the book that really made it much more exciting. In the book, they show Dumbledore going to find the ring alone, stuff like that. And they, for some reason, cut that out of the movie, which I just don't understand. It's so stupid to me, because the book, I remember reading it in middle school. The last two books, Half-Blood Prince and Deathly Hallows, are like some of the, maybe the two best books I ever read. Like, I really enjoyed them. And this sixth book, I loved. And it's much better than the movie, especially not the ending. The ending is great in the movie, but the beginning of the book is far superior to the movie. And part of that is because they show things in the book that they just cut out of the movie, and I just don't understand why. What's the length of this film? There's definitely, it's 2.5 hours for sure. They could have cut out like 15 minutes and then put in 15 minutes of Dumbledore finding the ring. Or they could have just made it 2 hours and 45 minutes. Like, it would have been much better. Or they could have made cuts, obviously, like I'm saying. The main thing to focus on in this movie is the ending. The ending is a really beautiful coming together of the relationship of Harry and Dumbledore, where it's this wise old man, very strong man, who's dying in his last moments, who sort of goes on this last journey with this boy that he's protected ever since he was a baby, and he dropped him off at his aunt and uncle's house. And then sort of the mystique of Dumbledore dies with him. Not the mystique, the power, and Harry's left alone to fend for himself. But it's absolutely beautiful and really emotionally touching to see Dumbledore die and like beg, like, Severus, please. But the reason it's so powerful, especially on rewatch, is the revelation of Snape's redemption arc, that, you know, Dumbledore asked Snape to kill him because he was already dying and he wanted Snape to be a spy and continue to help Harry from behind enemy lines and basically convince Voldemort that the Elder Wand was working for him, when it would obviously never work for him because he never truly had it. So, but that's all from the next two movies, specifically the last one. I'm probably going to watch this again in the next few days. Yeah, but I really enjoy this movie. I like the new characters. I like Horace Slughorn a lot. And ending is beautiful. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Sussy Boy out.